All right, let's go through this list of what's happened in the National Football League. This started over the weekend with the Seattle Seahawks. They traded Geno Smith, the quarterback, to the Raiders. Then they turned around and traded their wide receiver, their star wide receiver, DK Metcalf. He went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They released Ty Little, their other wide receiver. In essence, have strip mined the whole thing. So it begged the question, who's going to want to go play in Seattle when they had no running game and you got rid of the top two wide receivers and their offensive line is skitterish? Well, the answer at 11 a.m. this morning is Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold left the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold signed a 3-year mega contract to go play for the Seattle Seahawks. He'll be the starting quarterback, but there's nothing left around him. So that's story one. Story two, the Raiders. Did they get the right guy? They trade for Geno Smith. Geno negotiated his way out of Seattle. Hawks sent him to the Raiders. He asked for $40 million. I'm not paying $40 million to a quarterback who had 20 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, a pile of fumbles, and took 50 sacks. The Raiders inherit that guy, Geno Smith. Would they have been better, the Raiders, to sign Aaron Rodgers rather than Geno Smith? Feel free to jump on board, talk about that. That being said, though, the Raiders still have 9 draft picks and over $100 million in cap space left to use in free agency. Third one, the New York Giants. Where are they going to go to get a quarterback? Because the quarterbacks are hopping off the board. Aaron Rodgers to the Giants might happen, which is really weird. But then again, why would Aaron Rodgers want to go to the Giants? That place is like 3 Mile Island. There's nothing left and nobody around. They don't have any players, skill players, to speak of. Then you got the New York Jets. The Jets letting Aaron Rodgers go. And how about this storyline? The Jets today, within the hour, signed Justin Fields, the Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback. He goes to the New York Jets on a 3-year, $60 million contract without having accomplished anything. That's a stunner. Indianapolis, they're looking for a young quarterback to confront Anthony Richardson, who has really staggered 2 years in a row. Quarterback they're talking to, Daniel Jones, the ex-Giant quarterback who finished up in Minnesota. Where does Minnesota go? How about this? Minnesota in on Aaron Rodgers at the last minute after Sam Darnold defected and went to Seattle. Minnesota talking to Aaron Rodgers about being a short-term rental up there, kind of like Brett Favre was when Brett Favre retired. Atlanta. This is weird. I mean, they committed to Michael Penix, the Washington Huskies quarterback. Kirk Cousins went to them a week ago and asked to be released. They said no. Now, he's supposed to make $27.5 million next season, and he has a $10 million roster bonus that's due. And it's being reported out of Atlanta. The Falcons have told him, we want you to be here and be our second quarterback. Maybe they don't trust what they see from Michael Penix. I don't know very many people would be willing to have a $37 million backup quarterback, but Atlanta, at least at this point, is willing to be that team. And then there's New Orleans, which is in salary cap hell till the day the world ends. New Orleans has just restructured quarterback Derek Carr again. New Orleans gets $30 million in cap savings, but in doing so, to give themselves breathing room to try to fix the rest of the franchise, Derek Carr is going to have a cap number of $69 million next season. I mean, with all the smart people in the NFL, you have to understand when you restructure somebody's contract, that means a credit card bill is pushed another year down the road. You're still got to pay that bill somewhere. $69 million cap figure for Derek Carr. Okay, so John, when you first heard, because I texted you about this whole Seattle scenario, them blowing their offense up, and all of a sudden this morning getting Sam Darnold, what'd you think?
Yeah, it's Darnold on a 3-year deal makes a little bit more sense than on like a 5 or a 6. It's still a gamble. But then I'm thinking Darnold, Geno Smith. I mean, is there a big difference? And then I think of Geno Smith when he was West Virginia, right? And then you go to the Jets.
That didn't work.
Well, yeah. And I remember everyone was just sort of meh on Geno Smith. He was like mid, maybe a little bit below average in the NFL. And I know you have a good game every once in a while. Then he goes to Seattle and he turned into a better quarterback. But then I still think of him as the old Geno Smith, and now he's going with the Raiders. But, Tom Brady must have had something to do with this.
Yeah, concur. Interesting scenario there. And of all those transactions that we just talked about, is maybe the most stunning one, the Jets' amount of money they just gave Justin Fields, who hasn't been able to stay as a starter, neither in Chicago nor in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I don't think Justin Fields has proven that he can be an NFL passer, because he's so erratic. So that one's weird too. I mean, there's all these sort of like, you got your top 4 or 5 quarterbacks, and then you got like another tier of, I would say, 5 or 6 other kind of B-level guys. But Justin Fields is like third tier or 4th tier. And he's getting what, 60 million for 3 years?
Yep.
20 million a year. That's unbelievable. Anthony Richardson, I'm rooting for him. I want him to be successful. But I remember they said that when he was drafted, he was just an athletic specimen, but his football IQ wasn't where it needed to be. And there was a lot of work he needed to put in.
All 47% completion rate and a ton of turnovers in 2 years, and he keeps getting hurt.
Yeah.
So that's the first page in our NFL notebook. If you're a football fan, feel free to pile in the Fans Forum chat box. You want to talk about one of those teams that we just talked about, because we're not done.